Oh, good. Before I get into my topic, I just want to know, Christy, how's your dog?
Oh, doing great, thank you. Yeah, he's at home wondering why I'm not there currently doing nothing but take care of him.
Oh, I know.
I wasn't sure if that was a euphemism. Sorry, I forgot. Okay.
Oh, my.
Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
I'm calling because one of the shows that I'm really into is called Shameless, and it airs on Showtime. And
so the U.S. William H. Macy version?
And so it's basically, you know, a family kind of living in the ghetto in Chicago, I believe, and they are always up to some kind of trouble.
Yep.
Hence the show's name, Shameless. And, you know, they're, you know, scamming the local government or the federal government. And, you know, there's a lot of sex in the show, which is good because it, you know, does show that, you know, people are doing, you know, not just traditional, oh, it's a guy and a girl who are married and they're, you know, just having sex to make babies and it's all, you know, kept under the rug. You know, there's a lot of just open, you know, people hooking up randomly, people, you know, there's also a good mix of
pleasure-based sex.
You know, pleasure-based sex, true love kind of, you know, like romantic relationships. And, you know, as the season progressed, one of the main characters is gay. And, you know, there was some initial, you know, recognition of that at the beginning of the show where, you know, it was kind of unusual for the family just because it wasn't that they had a problem with it. They just didn't know about it at first. And as the season progresses, you know, there is, you know, a decent amount of, you know, portrayal of his relations with other men. And it's, you know, there's nothing really raunchy, although, you know, the show does have some scenes that are certainly rated PG-13. And he eventually starts this cult called the Church of the Gay Jesus. And, you know, it's basically trying to get a whole bunch of, you know, the LGBTQ community, you know, interested in, you know, empowering themselves. And, you know, I thought that there were some problems with this. One, I don't think that you necessarily need to be tied to a religion to feel good about who you are. And, you know, one, the idea that there are some Christian denominations that accept gay youth, that doesn't add to the validity or, you know, the truth of the religion. And it just, you know, you don't need, and I'm not saying leave religion just because it is, you know, anti-LGBTQ, but I'm also saying what the religion stance on that is not tied to its truth value. But I found it really problematic. And the other thing I found problematic about this was there was a lot of ace and aro erasures. The group that resulted from this activity didn't necessarily acknowledge that there are some people who are not interested in relationships, who are not interested in sex. And it was all just, you know, the people who, you know, were attracted to the same sex, multiple sexes and genders and, you know, transgender people. And, you know, there is a lot of awareness of trans issues in the show. And then another issue that the show had was one of the female characters actually drugged and raped a guy. And that wasn't really, she didn't face repercussions for it in the show. And it wasn't really, I mean, in later seasons, some of the characters were, you know, trying to make awareness for sexual violence against women. But at the same time, the show did not
didn't really address that. Yeah, take that on, sure.
Can also fall victim to some of the stuff in that, you know, when people are, you know, doing sexual things, it's got to be mutually, you know, everybody's on board. And, you know, it doesn't matter what genitals you have. If you're passed out, somebody should not be having sex with you.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I haven't caught the show myself. Megan, it sounds like you have.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I haven't seen the last maybe season and a half, but I am familiar with everything that Alex touched on. So
yeah, I think that that's something we didn't maybe have as much time as I would have liked to highlight, that, you know, things are progressing, but not in a linear way. You know,
they rarely do.
Yeah, it's great that people are showing different types of sexuality on these types of shows. It's great that we're getting introduced to all sorts of different things, that we're kind of taking the stigma off, that we're putting emphasis on pleasure. And I mean, all of this is wonderful, but, you know, the Birdcage is still a movie that exists.
Yeah.
You know, and it maybe increased gay visibility in some ways while also being really cringeworthy, really gross in a lot of ways.
Things not aging well.
Yeah, not at all. And so, yeah, you know, even as we talked about The Office, as we've talked about a lot of these things, I tend to believe, as I've said on this show, that we're headed in the right direction. But man, are there some pitfalls along the way.
I mean, with progress comes stumbling.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I would agree, Alex, with most of your assessments of the show. I would just like to highlight that it, like we say, it's not a linear path to progress. And the fact that they do show the LGBTQ community in a positive light is definitely a plus as far as the path to progress goes.
Yeah, we try to enjoy the representation that we get, and we try to hold them accountable for their fumbles, and that's kind of what we got.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot last week about, you know, it's good to get angry at the things that we should be angry about, while also still keeping in mind that things do seem to be headed in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, Alex.
Yeah, like the show.
Sorry.
Hello? Yeah, the show The Fosters also, you know, there's a lot of LGBTQ representation, and that, you know, that definitely takes a really good direction in, you know, addressing everything and representing things clearly. And, you know, it's not as raunchy as Shameless, but it does a lot of, you know, kind of highlighting the positive things and, you know, making us aware of issues in ways that are not, you know, as problematic. You know, I think there are shows that try to get one or another point across, and I think in one, you know, in Shameless, it's kind of, this is a byproduct of all the other things that are going on in the show. And, you know, while it's great that pointing out one thing and another happening, the goal of the show is not just to have us know that, you know, this community of people lives like this and they do these things. It's, okay, this is just a family who has everything, you know, 10 things going on at once. And, you know, that's the goal of the show.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it sounds like we're going to need to brainstorm a little bit and come up with some sort of poll or some sort of something where people are able to jump onto our Facebook page here at the ACA and share some of their favorite TV shows and movies and the way that they represent sex and gender and sexuality and these different things. Because, yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of great recommendations that I'd love to be turned on to. So shoot us y'all's recommendations, let us know, and we'll figure out some way to get all that connected.
Yeah, like what is the best, you know, TV representation and why is it Sense8? I don't know.
Yeah, why is it Sense8?
I love that show.
It's a fair question. Fair question. Yeah.
So, Alex, does that give you kind of the roundabout, I guess, answers?
Yeah, this is, you know, I just figured I would, you know, put that information out there and, you know, just see what you guys thought about it.
Thank you for prompting that discussion.
No, appreciate that. We'll, I'm interested to take a look. I've heard it's a good show. I haven't caught it myself. So as we're running low on time, I just want to say thank you again. And yeah, appreciate you giving us a call.
Yeah.